Okay, so in this video I'm going to show you how to set up your Visual Studio Code with Github. Github's a version control system that will allow you to keep track of any changes you make in your code as you progress through this module or through any PHP development or even any other programming development anywhere that you work in the future. It's really important we do this. There's a couple of reasons why. Major reasons, so you can track any mistakes that you make, revert back to the last working version, but it also helps you collaborate as part of a team as well. So first thing to do is to sign up to github.com. There are multiple different version control services, so Bitbucket's another one that I use. The reason I'm showing you GitHub is because it integrates quite well with Visual Studio Code. It's also one of the most popular, if not the most popular, version control system. So I'll sign up to GitHub. It is free to do. Once I've signed up, I've got no repositories so far. So repository is just a storage area for your code or project. So I'm going to click on Create Repository on the left hand side here. I'm then going to give my repository a name. Now I'm just going to call this my website for the time being. You can call this whatever you want. Usual convention is that we don't have any spaces, but if we do need spaces, we tend to replace them with hyphens, like this example that I've got on here. The description's optional. Now we get so many public and private repositories. So public means anyone on the internet can see it, as it says there. Private means it's only for you to see. So it doesn't really matter. It's up to you what you do with this. I'm going to put mine as private. And I'm then going to go down to the bottom here and click Create Repository. Okay, so that's it done pretty much. So we can see now that we've got our account name. So in this case we're using developerspace.co.uk, which is the developerspace.co.uk GitHub account. In there I've then got my repository name, which is just a name for your project or where you're going to store your code. And then you can see it's got a little tag next to it which says it's private. So the first thing to do here is we're going to grab this URL here. So we've got it on HTTPS. I'm just going to grab this whole thing. Alternatively, I can click here and it'll grab that for me. Next thing I'm going to do is go back to my desktop. I'm going to open Visual Studio Code. I'll pull that onto the right screen so we can see it. And then I'm going to click on Clone Repository here. It's going to ask me for a GitHub URL. So I'll pop that in. And you can see it then says Clone from URL. And it gives me the full URL that I've just pasted in. So I'm going to click on that. It's then going to ask me to choose a location where to save this or where to clone to. Now, it doesn't really matter, it depends on where you're wanting to work. So I'm just going to pop this on the desktop for now. So I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to match the name. Again, this doesn't really matter. So I've called it my website. I'm going to click on Select Repository Location. And you can see here that it now starts to clone. Now at the moment, I'm not signed in to the GitHub account for this, so you can see it's popped up with a login. So now what I need to do is log into GitHub. So whatever you've registered with, that's going to match these login details now. So I'll just log in using my developer space credentials. And once I'm done, click login. And it'll continue to do its thing. And then it says the extension GitHub wants to sign in using GitHub. So I'm going to allow that. So this is just a pop-up to allow Visual Studio Code to do that for me. So I click on allow. It then brings me into a web browser and asks me to authorize the permission, which I'm going to do. So I'm going to click continue. Okay, and then again it asks what I want to allow Visual Studio Code to do. I'm going to allow it to view my public and private repositories, and I'm going to allow it to look at my workflow. Now we're going to come back to this at some point, but it's not relevant for this tutorial. So I'm going to click on Authorize GitHub. Okay, so now my browser, this might be different depending on the browser you're in. I'm in Firefox Developer Edition. It's now asking me what to do with this link. So I'm just going to click Open Link. And then it's going to allow an extension to update this URI. So it's just going to update our Visual Studio Code installation to say that this is now authorized to access my account. So I'm going to click on Open. Okay, we can see down here that GitHub's now cloned the repository. I'm going to click on Open in New Window. Okay, and this now gives me a brand new workspace. There are other ways to do this. This is just the way that I'm showing you. So in here I can now see a blank folder with my website in here. So in here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file, and I'm just going to start with HTML files for now just to show you how GitHub works and what it does. So I'm going to start with index.html, and I've got Emmet installed in here, so I can just pop in by pressing Shift and exclamation then enter once Emmet pops up. So I'll just show you that very quickly again. So Shift, exclamation, and you can see it says Emmet abbreviation. So I'm just going to press enter, and that gives me a template for a HTML file. So in here I'm just going to pop in just some text. So I'm just going to say hello world first of all, and you can now see I've clicked Control S or save to save the file. Alternatively, you can go to File and then Save, and you can now see that I'm getting an indication to say that this file is untracked. If I hover on that, you can see it says at the end of that little description that pops up that that file is untracked. So in terms of jumping back to what GitHub actually does, is it tracks your files and any changes that you're making in your files. So in this case, I've not asked GitHub to track this file. So the next thing that I need to do is go into the GitHub tab on the left hand side, or my source control tab, sorry. Click on that, and again I get a similar, very similar view, but you can see that I've got a changes section here now. So there's actually been a change in this file. Now we know there's been a change because the index.html file has only just been created, so it didn't exist previously. So let's now do what we call staging those changes. So staging just means that we get them ready to send up online into the cloud or into GitHub so that we can see and track any changes that are made to this file in the future. So to do that, I'm going to click on Views and More Actions. I'm going to click on Changes, and I'm going to click on Stage All Changes. Okay, and we can see that we now get a new section on here called Stage Changes, and in there is my index.html file. Following on from that, because this is now staged, and you can see if I hover over it, it says index added. That means that GitHub is now gonna, is now gonna keep hold of any change that I make to this file. So it's telling it to keep track of this file from here on in. So the next thing for me to do is to commit this. So all a commit is saving these changes. So at the moment, a good description, which I'm just going to enter straight in this box here, and as you can see it says press Control and Enter, is I've just added this file, so something along the lines of added the new index page, and that will do for now. Now that I'm happy with that, I can click on this tick symbol here to commit it, or I can press Control and Enter. So for the purposes of showing you this, I'm going to click this tick, and you can see that now I've got 0 changes here. Okay. So what we've done is we've added a new file and we've made some slight changes to the file, but obviously they're not being tracked just yet because it's a brand new file. So let's make some additional changes in here. So I'm going to add in a paragraph tag, and I'm going to put this is my first paragraph, and I'm now going to save this file again. So I'm going to press Control and S. Okay, and you can see as I've done that, Git has now updated in VS Code, and you can see that if I hover over the index file, I can now see a modified status, or an M, along the right hand side of this. This is now tracking changes that I'm making in this file. So again, I'm going to go through the same process of staging these changes and then committing them. So if I stage them, I'll click on these 3 dots of the ellipsis, go to Changes, Stage All Changes. We then see this new Stage Changes section on the left hand side. Remember, I'm inside the Git tab here, or the Source Control tab. I'm now going to click this ellipsis again, and I can either go to Commit, or I can enter my message directly in here. So I'm going to put in a brief comment that explains what I've just done. So in this case, I did my first paragraph, and I'm going to click the tick symbol to commit. And again, you can see there's now no changes there. So those changes have all been saved and they've been committed. So the next step for us to do is, at the moment, everything that we've done is saved locally on our machine. So that means I can go onto GitHub to my heart's content, I can go onto the website github.com, I can view this repository, but I'm still going to see no changes because I've not pushed them up online. So we'll do that now just to show you that. So I'll go back into my web browser, I'm going to close this tab because I'm done with it. I'm going to go into my website repository, and we can see in here there's absolutely nothing. It's just giving me the same set of information again. Okay, so the next thing for me to do is actually to push my changes up online, and that's called a git push. So I'm going to go back into my website here, or into my index file. Now, once I'm happy my changes are done on my machine, I'm going to push them up online so I can see them on github.com. So to do that, back to this ellipsis at the top of the source control panel, I'm going to go to pull and push, and I'm going to go to push. And we can see a little loader up here. We can also see that it's spinning and doing its thing here, synchronizing changes. And then once it's done, we should see that stop spinning, and it's now prompting me to synchronize rather than saying it's synchronizing. So that's it now done. That's those changes up online. So if I go back into my web browser, I'm going to refresh again my website, and we can now see that I can see my index.html file online here. Now if I click on that file, you can see my last commit message. That's what I entered in VS Code as I saved this file. If I go back into it, I can see my changes in here. What I can also do is I can click on blame, and I can see the last few changes I've made and the differences between those files. So in this case, I've gone back a version, and I can see that I've only got hello world in there. Now if I pop back again, you can see that in this version I've now got, this is my first paragraph. So let's make another change to this file and just see what the difference is. So we're going to go back into VS Code. I'm now going to add another demonstration of a change. So I'm going to add another P in there, another P tag or a paragraph. I'm going to pop in, this is another change, Control and S to save it. And you can see again I've got another modified status. Click on the ellipsis, changes, stage all changes, wait for them to appear in stage changes, and then I'm going to commit in just another example message saying another change has been made, and I'm going to click on tick to commit it. Now again, that's the commit now locally on my machine, so I'm not actually pushing this up online. It's one of the benefits of using Git versus SVN. So if you are interested in version control, you can have a look at another system called SVN. But at the moment, Git is storing these commits and these changes to my file locally until I visit the ellipsis, go to push, and I push. So that's called a git push, and that synchronizes these changes online into github.com. So again, we're waiting for this to finish, or for this to stop saying synchronizing. Again, I'm happy that's the case now. So I'm going to go back to this, refresh, and you can now see that I get another change has been made. And you can see this commit was made 40 seconds ago. And I can now view this file again online. Now the importance of this is that I can see changes that have been made, but I can also see team members that are making these changes. So if we go back to my repository home again, so my website in this case, I can see individual files in here. So if I want to, for example, add a contact page, I can go back in here, go into my file manager, I'm going to add a new file. I'm going to call it contactus.html. I'm going to use Emmet again just to get a quick file example. Make a few quick changes. Oh. Okay, it's just a nice simple HTML file to show you this working. I'm going to save it. Now I've got an unstaged change or untracked file at the minute. So what I'm going to have to do here is click on Views and More Actions. Oh, sorry. I'm going to have to go to Git, first of all. Now we can see again this file's still here. So again, click on the ellipsis at the top here. Click on Changes. Stage all changes. Contact us now appears in stage changes. I can now commit this. So I'm going to say add the contact us page. Commit it using this tick symbol, and that's now my change committed, but again it's local. So the next thing is to go down to pull or push, and to push those up to the server. So they go on to the Git server, which is hosted at github.com. Wait for it to finish syncing. So after this little bar, stop going across. Go up to the top here, back into my github.com and into my repository URL, which is here. I'm going to refresh this, and you can now see that I've got my Contact Us page in here as well. Okay, so the importance of this is that we can track any changes that we make to any of our files on our website. But in terms of making changes in HTML files or PHP files or any programming that you do in the future, this is really useful to us. Because if we make mistakes, there's only so much control Z you can do or undoing that you can do in specific applications. So Notepad++, VS Code, whatever it is, there's only so much control Z you can do to go back the way. So with this, what we can do is we can see every change that has been committed. So again, if I'm visiting this file here, my index file, I can go onto blame here, and I can see anyone that's made changes. Now in this case, you can see it's just me. So it's only me that's showing up here as making changes. However, if you have other team members, they will show on the left hand side here with their GitHub icon, or their Git icon, they'll show on the left hand side, and you can see the changes that your team members are making as well. Now in terms of using this to your benefit later on, if for example I decide that this is a mistake and I no longer want this, what I can do is go back a commit. So I can go back to added my first paragraph here. I can see that this is now gone. In terms of reverting this back, obviously I've put a comment on there now just to show that if I do log in online that there's something wrong with this commit. Now this is useful if you're working in a team because you can comment on each other's work, comment on each other's commits and help each other out here. So I put a comment in there. The next thing for me to do is actually to revert this. So to do that I need to grab hold of this hash. So I'm going to copy that. So this is commit, this is the unique hash for that commit because I want to revert back to this. So this is going to be the version of the file I'm going to get after the reversion. So I'm going to go back to just hello world in this case. So grab this hash. We're going to go back into Visual Studio. We're going to click on this ellipsis here. We're going to click on Show Git Output, and that will give us a terminal here. We're going to click on Terminal, and then we're going to type git, and then revert, and then we're going to paste that hash in there and press enter. And you can see that it actually tries to revert. So it says git revert, auto merge index, and it says that there's a conflict there, and it says could not revert, added my first paragraph. Okay, and it's asking us to resolve conflicts. So let's have a quick look inside this file. So if we go into index, we can see that this is what it's asking us to do. Okay, so this is our incoming change. So in this case we've had a bit of a clash. So to deal with this, we need to look at our changes. Now this isn't the incoming change, this has come direct from the GitHub server. So what I mean by this has come from the online version. Now at the moment this is what's in my file. Now I know that on that commit, if I compare it with the one online, that these two lines, or this line and the line underneath, are going to go. So I'm happy that I'm going to accept the incoming change. And you can see it's now reverted those changes back to where it was before I added those two additional paragraphs in there. Now that I'm happy with that, we can see if I hover over it, it's saying both modify. That's just because we had a clash. So I'm going to click on this ellipsis, go to changes, stage all changes, click on commit. Now I haven't saved this file locally, so I'm going to click on save all and commit. So I'm going to go to this ellipsis again, I'm going to go to commit, and then commit. Okay, so that's my changes now committed. So now what I want to do is click on the ellipsis, go to pull and push, go to push, and that's going to push them back up to the GitHub server with this loader. Again, our spinner down here is going, and once it's done it'll say synchronize rather than synchronizing. So it'd be nice to have a better view of this, but that's what we get anyway. I'll go back into GitHub, I'm going to refresh on the main repo page, and you can see I've now got revert, added my first paragraph because I've got rid of that change. So if I click on that, we're now back to just our hello world example. So let's just try very quickly, just to get used to this, pop in another change in there. So we'll go back in here. This is a second example paragraph. I'm going to very quickly run through the whole process here again. Control S till it comes up modified. Click the ellipsis. Changes. Stage all changes. The changes are now staged. I'm going to commit this, so added a second paragraph. I'm going to click this tick to commit. Now that's it local on my machine, so the next stage is to push it. So click the ellipsis, go to push and pull. I'm going to push. Again, we can see this little load down here, which is pushing it up to github.com. That's it now done, so I'm going to go back to github.com. I'm going to refresh this file, and we can see that my paragraph shows up immediately online once I've pushed it, so you have to push it in order for it to show up. Now, that's us in terms of pushing data up to github.com, so this is where we can now share our code. We can ask other people to collaborate if they're not in the same location. We can also move code between machines if you've got multiple development environments, so it is really handy for us. Now let's just very quickly go through the revert process again. So I'm going to click on our history here. We can go through another way and click blame. This is the same thing, it gives us all of the commits. So this is our second paragraph commit here, so I'm going to click on that to view it. Now I've changed the view here, so if you click on unified you can see all the changes and just highlights in green and a plus where I've added something, and it'll go red and in a minus where I've removed something. Now you can change this to split view, which gives you your old version and your new version of the file. So old on the left, new on the right, so that might be a bit clearer for some people. In there I've got my commit hash, so this is what we're going to use to revert, so I'm going to grab that. I'm going to go back into VS Code. I've already got my terminal up, but if you want to know how to get this up, let's just close it quickly. I'm going to right click on here, sorry no I'm not, I'm going to click the ellipsis at the top here, show git output, and then you get a terminal tab there. Another way to do that is click view, and then in there is a terminal option. So it's the same thing, just I'll give you a longer way around I suppose. So in here what I'm going to do is say git revert. I'm going to paste in that hash of that commit, press enter, and we can see that it's reverted that change. So it said master, revert, added a second paragraph. Now what I need to do is make sure I'm in here, my source control, click on changes, stage all changes. So my change has been made, so the next thing I need to do is push. And you can see that it's starting to push this up to Git again. Let's have a look back in git.com or github.com. Go back to my website, let's view our index file, and we can see that I reverted, adding my first paragraph. Let's go into our history. And then I've got a revert there, which is the one we've just done, so this is my last revert, added my first paragraph. This is my other revert where I've just got rid of that second paragraph, and we can see again our changes in this file. So this is a unified view. Sorry, no it's not, that's the previous view where we're saying minus this file. This is our new file here on the right hand side. So you can see the difference between adding a line and removing a line. This is now highlighted in red. Okay, so that's us now been through saving files or committing files, pushing them up to the server, so github.com, so they're no longer local on our machine. It's important that you make sure you push so you can access them in other locations. And then one of the final things for us to go through just in this very brief introduction to Git is how to make changes online and then do what's called a git pull request, which pulls those changes down from the server onto your local machine. So we're going to jump back to our main repository again, which is called my website. I'm going to go into this contact us file now, and I'm going to click this pencil here to edit this online. So I'm going to just make a couple of changes here. So I'm going to say this is my contact page instead. I'm going to change this and say welcome to this website. This is my contact us page. I'm happy with those changes now. Okay, so what I can do here is preview my changes, and we can see that I now get an indication of my the things that I've changed. So I get a plus on here, say I've updated this line, and a plus on here to say I've changed this line as well. Now we still have to do the same process, we still have to make commits. However, instead of it having to be pushed up to the online server, so github.com, it's now directly on the online server. So it's something we have to do to get it locally. So I'm going to add in a description here. In fact, I'm going to change this description. This is going to be the default description, so it says update contact us. So I'm going to change it to say make a few minor changes to the contact us page. Okay, and I'm going to click commit. Now that's the commit now done. So if I go to my website, and if I click on contact us, and then I click on blame, I can see that 13 seconds ago I made a few changes to the contact us page, and I can click on that commit, and I can see welcome to this website, this is my contact us page. Now if I go back to my local version of this file, and I go into my file explorer at the left here, open contact us, I can see I've still got the old version of this file. Now that's an issue because I've now got a totally different version of my machine as to what's on the version control server or in Git, so github.com in this case. So what I need to do is go back into version control on the left hand side of source control, click on this ellipsis, I'm going to click on pull or push, and this time I'm going to be pulling. So if I click pull, the machine will now pull the changes directly from the server, and I can see the new version of the file. So in this case, welcome to this website, this is my contact us page. So if I control Z back, you can see the old version, control Y, this is now the version from my server or from the Git repository online. So that's an example of pulling changes from the server. So it's the very basics of GitHub or Git, but get used to using VS Code and Git for this module.